coming to you from Israel and the Galilee at 10:07 in the morning on Monday, 15th January 2024. Our weather has turned much nicer. I think we're out of the rain. I don't know what it was, 5 days at least, maybe 6 days of rain. It was just terrible. Now, some of you people, have harsher weather than us. I understand that. Much harsher. Where you go outside and it's like freezing cold, below zero. I know that. But you see, we're not really built for that with our houses. Okay? If you had houses like we had in Northern America and Canada and Northern Europe and other places like that, you would have big, thick, 8, 10, 12-inch cakes of ice on your windows and in your walls. They don't know what double pane glass is here for probably 95, 98% of the houses. They don't know what insulation is for the same thing. There's almost no houses with insulation. They haven't figured out that insulation also keeps the house cooler. And they build the houses like the Arabs did, which today very many, or the vast majority probably, of the Israelis that are here came out of Arab countries. The Ashkenazi people, which mostly, but not exclusively, but mostly didn't come out of the Arab countries, are different than they are, but they still don't have the proper ways of building the houses. So the houses are built entirely out of concrete with tile floors. In the warm weather, they have drains in a lot of the floors. Our house doesn't have it, but a lot of houses do. And the women have a hose attachment in the house, and they hook up a hose and they water the floor down. And then they use a squeegee, a large one, like 18, 24, or 30 inches even, to push the water down in the drain. And the water cools the tile. So the houses are built for heat. They didn't think about building them for both. So the houses are basically terribly cold in the winter. Okay? The houses in, like I know, America are going to have insulation. They're going to have a concrete floor with padding and carpet over it, which is going to insulate and make things warmer. Carpet doesn't get as cold as tile. And you have central heat, which is a rare thing to see in Israel. It's around, but it's rare. And this house used to have central heat, except the thing broke, and of course the landlords won't fix anything. So we just got room heaters, which use electrodes and, throw heat. We don't have thermostats, and we do have radiators. I bought some. I was underimpressed with them. They're filled with oil, and they do make heat, and they have thermostat on them, but I haven't really been that happy with them, to be honest with you. So we don't use them very much. I haven't turned mine on, I don't think, all winter. And they're inexpensive, but I've had them in the States that work, and other countries that work pretty good, but these don't do that great a job. I don't know, maybe I didn't buy a big enough one, I don't know. But on top of that, we take rockets and missiles every day. Every single day. And we have terrorist attacks like every single day. And we're basically fighting a civil war inside Israel in the West Bank against the members of the various jihadist militias like Hamas and PIJ and Hezbollah or whatever that live there. And we have serious fights every day with the military. I mean, real warfare type things. And then there's the threat So it's a pretty hard place to live. The Israeli people over time have been turned to be nasty towards each other. They're very hard to live with, and they fight amongst themselves in incredibly high degree. And they support a corrupt government because they can use the government's corruption for their favor. And that's why Netanyahu keeps getting elected, in my opinion. So you've got a horrible government, which many of you also have, okay? You have sleeper agents in America, but we've got them in Israel for ages. Okay, what do you think they are in the West Bank? The Arabs that are citizens, for the vast majority to date, don't seem to want to rise up against Israel. They like living here. There's 1.6 million of them, and they like it here for the most part, the high majority, and they don't rise up. Now, I wouldn't want to go into an Arab restaurant during the last 100 days, or I think we're on day 101 now, of the war, because I wouldn't feel comfortable there, okay? Their food is overall pretty darn good in most of them that I've gone into, which is not a huge amount, but they're pretty good. And the service is good, and they're very nice and polite. But I don't think it's the right time to go in there, okay? So I haven't gone to a restaurant in maybe 6 months. I stopped. They're expensive, and the food overall is not very good. The Arab restaurants give you little dishes with different salads, like to the tune of 15 or so. Some are 8 or 9, some are 15 to even higher amounts. And you eat those salads, and then they give you fresh bread that they bake right there when you sit down. It's a thin bread, it's a special bread, it's yummy. I mean, it's excellent. And they have coffee, and they have tea, and they have the standard sodas and bottled water. And then they bring you the salads, which are, a lot of them I don't care for, and a lot of them are very good. And you get pickles and olives and like a coleslaw and all kinds of things, carrot salad. It's good. Then the main courses in some of the restaurants aren't so good, and others they're very creative and extremely good. I've had a mushroom dish with sauce and gravy, or I don't remember everything. It was fantastic. They got really good food, but it's not for these days, and they got better prices than the Israeli restaurants because they're not kosher, and it's just not the right time. When there's a long period of peace, it's pretty nice to go in there. But I don't go these days. And most of the other restaurants are not very good, really not good, and they're expensive. There's a guy that has he has his own ranch and raises his own beef, and he doesn't have them kosher it, so it tastes good. Kosher's an unbiblical concept, by the way, and it's clean and unclean food. And his steaks are pretty much above mostly what you get, okay? But they're expensive, and they're not as good as what you can cook in the house. Now, there's a guy in the Golan Heights in a kibbutz that has a smoke restaurant where he has food that's like southern barbecue smoked meat. He's kosher. And he makes bagels, and I think he has the best bagels in Israel. But he only gives you like 1 or 2. He can't make that many. And it's extremely good, and it's not cheap, and it's a long drive, and it's a really nice restaurant. But you can do better in the house. So my wife's an excellent cook. When I say excellent, she's high-end restaurant quality, But I could take care of myself. I could just get a good piece of meat and pan fry it and throw in onions, tomatoes, scallions, and all kinds of stuff, and put that in with the olive oil and butter and fry it up, and then put the meat in and cook the meat and burn it in the skillet. And I'm really happy with that. And that's generally, to me, better than what you get in the restaurants. Now, if you go to Tel Aviv and you go to Jerusalem and you don't mind throwing $150 into a restaurant for two people, you'll get a really good meal there. But with traffic, for us to go to Tel Aviv is 2.5 hours or more each way, so we're not going to do that. It's your whole day, you know. And I know some restaurants in Haifa are pretty good, but we don't live in a big city, so we don't get much of anything. You know, there's an excellent pizza guy here that's reasonably priced, and his pizza tastes like perfect Sicilian pizza in New York. I mean, it's really spot on. You got to order it with extra cheese, and it's really spot on. But you got to get it delivered, you got to order a big one. And if I eat 2 slices, I'm okay. If I eat 3 slices, it's for me a carb overload, and I start getting tired. And I have a tendency to want to eat 3 or 4 when it comes. And then you take the rest and you freeze it, and it's reasonably good when you heat it up again in the microwave or something. But it's just not much to offer here, you know. So a lot of the people, when they go out to eat, you know, they don't bother with these restaurants. They're expensive and they're not that good. They're really not that good. There's a place in Tiberias that has Argentine beef. It's kosher, so they wash it and salt it, and then wash it and salt it, so it ruins the taste. And it's, by American standards, it's nowhere near as getting a steak in Outback or Fridays or Applebee's. Nowhere near as good. Is it acceptable? Yeah. Is it a great, rewarding experience to eat there? Absolutely not. Okay? It's not. All right? So the people will go out and they'll eat pizza. They'll eat falafel, which is so expensive now. It's about 20 shekels. And it used to be, well, 20 shekels is for, let's see. Let me divide it. I'll tell you exactly what it costs. And they shrunk the size of the breads that they put the falafel stuff in, so it's not that filling, but it's enough to give you a meal, I would say. It may have gone up. The last time I had one is 20 shekels. I think it's probably about that. Wait, I gotta clear this. It's $5.40, and you're getting a small pita bread with 5 falafel balls, which is chickpeas made into a ball, dropped in hot oil, and cooked. And you can throw condiments in there, and typically they'll have 10 to 20 different condiments. They'll have Israeli salad, they'll have French fries, pickles, fried eggplant, different things. And you can put all you want inside there, or they'll put it in for you. It's not bad, really, you know. And if you want to spend more money, like $8 or something, or $9, you can get a shawarma, which is a pressed meat made out of turkey and I think chicken, and they slice it off and they put it in there, and then you put the condiments in. Most people don't get that because they're so expensive, you know. And they just put it in a wrapped paper, and you order a drink, and you sit down on plastic tables and chairs outside or inside, and you eat it. And that's what most of the Israelis do, because the restaurants are disappointing. We thought of opening a restaurant, but we're too old and we don't have the energy and that, and you can't do ministry. That's a full-time job. It's day and night. It doesn't stop. So we didn't do it. And the Chinese food here, which I used to enjoy greatly, doesn't taste anything like Chinese food that I ever had in America or in other countries. Is something different. It's full of sweet sauces, which are, it's like candy Chinese food, and it's chicken chow mein, beef chow mein, chop suey. They don't have it. Really good wonton soup. They have a wonton soup that's tasty, but it doesn't taste like wonton soup. It's something else. Egg foo young, never saw it here. Egg rolls, those they have. They have good vegetarian egg rolls. That I will admit. They don't have good Chinese food. Sushi, well, they're generally kosher, so they're going to have tuna, salmon, and maybe a whitefish. That's it. And it's medium grade. It's all right. It's not great. And they have Thai food, and that is sort of all right. They don't have good food here to eat in the restaurants. I never really come across it. So anyway, enough on that. So let me do our praise first. There is, being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament, there is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, let me go into the chat and do my little housekeeping, which takes a little bit of time, but not much at all. It'll be fast. I want to check the sound and picture. Takes a little bit of time, but not much at all. All right, I got sound and picture. And I got a question that I'll answer. Let me start the housekeeping, but it goes quick. Kosher is not in the Bible. The Bible talks about clean and unclean food. That's it. The clean animal, now vegetables and fruits are not, there is no such thing as unclean fruit and vegetables. It's all clean. It only pertains to animals. Okay? And kosher is a way for the rabbis to make money. So they say that they inspect everything and they make sure it's kosher, and they pervert the salt covenant, which means salting meat that you're going to put on the altar as an offering to Jehovah. And they do it for people to eat in their house. So they wash it, and then a lot, and then they salt it down, and then they wash it another time again, and then they salt it down. And the taste is horrible, and the texture is so tough, and the flavor is gone. Okay, the Bible just says that the blood you pour out on the floor. You shouldn't eat the blood. And you shouldn't eat animals that just die of themselves or get killed by another beast. Now, in Acts 10, Yeshua did away with unclean food. So you can eat unclean food. In Israel, we don't eat unclean food. I mean, it'd be rare. Some of the Arab restaurants sell shrimp, but they won't eat pork. So I don't remember. I don't think I ever ate unclean food. Biblically unclean food in Israel. Okay. Uh, Fish is considered a part of this, and there's certain fish that is not unclean. But when you read Acts 10, and I don't have the time to go through it today, I've done it many times. The beast coming down from heaven, and he told Peter, kill and eat. Oh, I won't eat. And then Yeshua says, um, you know, I've made it clean. Now people pervert and twist that to apply to the 10 tribes that were eating unclean food, the lost tribes, and that's not what it means. It means all food. And there's supportive scriptures like when they go in ministry, eat what they put before you, and many things. I don't have the time, but the Yeshua definitely changed the law. He has the power to do that, and he changed things differently, many things, one of which is the making all the food clean, okay? And, he says what defiles a man is not what goes in his mouth and out to draw it, it's what comes out of his mouth. Okay, back to the housekeeping. So let me see if I answered that question. Okay. Right. So Torah is very, very involved, but, it's basically doing the Moedim, the holidays and the sacrifices and the offerings, and behaving correctly towards your fellow man, your other Israelites, the believers. And it's the law has never been done away with, so you're under grace because Yeshua knew that for 2,000 years, based on Hosea 6:1 and 2, there'd be no temple, no tabernacle, no altar, no operating priesthood, operating at all, really, with sacrifices and offerings. So you would be under the curse of the law as a non-Israelite believer because you're an Israelite when you come to faith in Yeshua. And right, yeah, and if he didn't do that, we would be under the curses of the law, which he doesn't curse the temple of the Holy Spirit, which is you. You're not the temple of the glory God of Israel, the temple of God. It says you're the temple of the Holy Spirit. Okay, Ruach HaKodesh. So how would he go around giving you the Holy Spirit, making you the temple of the Holy Spirit, and he's going to destroy those that destroy the temple, and yet he's going to put you under the curse of the law for not fulfilling the law when it's impossible to fulfill it. See, it makes no sense. Okay, but we'll be teaching more and more on the law as we go now in these days. But I brought you up to speed the other day for the New Year and Passover and unleavened bread, and that's what's coming up next. And I did that already, and I could review it, I guess, as we go. All right. Let me finish here. Okay. I'll do some war review, and then we'll get into the Bible and stuff. They keep hitting the Houthis. It does no good. They're not serious. America and UK are not serious about hitting the Houthis. They're not interested in destroying them. They're warning them about the attacks like Netanyahu did in times past. It's just a sham. They're going through the motions. They may actually invade the Houthis. They're not very close to doing it, but they might. The Houthis' main goal here was to shut the shipping in the Red Sea, and they've been very successful at it. I would say over 90% of the ships are no longer passing the Red Sea. It's probably more like 95% or something. I think it'll culminate in attacking an American Navy ship, which they tried again yesterday, but the ship destroyed the incoming missile. They'll attack and hit a Navy ship from somebody's Navy, and that'll trigger, a ground invasion, I expect, which is going to be a massive deployment. If they really want to win, they're probably going to have to come up with minimum of 50,000 troops, plus planes and tanks and everything. And maybe America likes to go with overwhelming odds, so probably more like 100 to 200,000. And they'll pull from the coalition to get help, so they won't have to put all their own in there. UK's moving 20,000 troops into Poland and around the Baltic to protect from a Russian attack. Another country, which one? Estonia is laying landmines by their border with Russia to hinder a Russian attack. Landmines generally don't hurt the people in tanks that much, but they could blow the treads or disable the tank. And that's going to depend on the size of the landmines. The small ones are designed to just hurt the soldiers. But they could put substantial landmines in there that might have, a large amount of explosives, like, 25 or 40 or 50 pounds or something like that. And it's not going to, kill the guys in the tank. It may throw the tank up in the air for a bit, and you could put it on its side even. But some of these tanks are 80,000 pounds, so I'm not, thinking it's gonna, do that much. But they can blow the treads, they can damage things in the tank and make it disabled. But they'll just come with minesweepers. Israelis' minesweepers basically are like a very heavily armored truck with something like a scoop on it, but it has like prongs and stuff, and it's out maybe 8 or 10 or even 12 feet or so, 6 feet. It's out far from the cab of the truck, which is armored, and it's not that hard to armor against shrapnel. It's not that hard. And they go rip the path up with these minesweeping machines, and it grinds up. If it's concrete, it rips up the concrete because they can put them on the concrete. And if a guy walks on it, he won't get blown up. But if a big vehicle comes with a lot of weight, it will. And they also can remote detonate them. So they just have a guy watching visually. And when he sees a good target, he hits the button either by wire or wireless, and the thing blows up. And they could disable multiple soldiers or a vehicle or whatever. So I don't know what kind of mines they're laying. They could have 100-pound mine, which would be a problem for a tank, I think. The tank has a limit. You drop a 250-pound bomb on a tank from a plane, good night. Tank can't sustain. Okay? You hit it with a good 50-pound artillery shell, maybe or something. I don't know. It's not going to do good. So tanks have a limited capacity as to what they can do. If you take 20 millimeter gun shells and they're armored, well, they're armor penetrating, so they could have a projectile out of molybdenum or some other very hard, dense metal, and you spray them. So you have these guns that fire 3,000 or 3,600 rounds a minute at it, and you spray the tank with these armor-piercing shells. Their reactive body armor will blow up the first few shells, and then you're going to start penetrating in. And they have armor piercing combined with incendiary, so it pierces the armor and then it gets inside the tank and causes fires. And when these projectiles get inside the tank, they tend to bounce around off the walls. They have enough energy to get through the first wall, but not the second, so they start ricocheting off the second wall. So they enter the tank, but they don't exit, so it's very dangerous in there. Tanks are not, today in the modern war, battlefield, they're not so safe. Israel designed tanks that have like a shotgun on it that shoots very hard pellets, a cloud of pellets at the incoming projectile. It's done by radar. And it's not all that effective. And they have another version that shoots a small missile at the incoming projectile, and that too is not that effective because we're getting tank hits that are bad. So they told us it was highly effective, but it's not. The Iron Dome is far from perfect. I would say the best possibility for the Iron Dome is 75% effective. The American Patriot system seems to be better. When you're shooting missiles that come from a large distance, like let's say 25 or even more miles, it's easier to intercept it because you have more time. Especially if you do, let's say you're doing a 60 or a 50 mile range, it's not hard for them to intercept it. When you're doing short range, like a shoulder fired weapon at under a mile or something like that, it's not easy to have your radar pick it up, get a lock, and then fire a countermeasure. There's not a lot of time. Okay? Tanks are dangerous. Armored personnel carriers more dangerous, and armored Humvees more yet. Armored personnel carriers and armored Humvees are really good for sustaining rifle fire, machine gun fire, stuff like that from the enemy. They can even armor up to 50 caliber. 20 millimeter, I don't think they do so good with. And artillery shells, even small 3-inch guns, they're not going to do good with. They're not designed to take landmines very well. So, running a tank over landmines, the mines will blow up and damage the tank. So they use these very heavily armored vehicles that have like a big scoop thing in front of it. It's probably more than an inch thick. But it has prods on it, sticking out, and they rip up the dirt. And if there's a mine there, it gets ripped up and it'll blow up, but it won't hurt anything. These things could even be 2 inches thick. I don't know. They're probably, hardened, armored type steel, and it doesn't seem to hurt them. And that's how we get rid of them. We don't walk around with a metal detector and looking for them, and, we have those capabilities, but generally we got to clear a path. We send these armored vehicles in, and they rip the road up, and then everybody, just follows the path of the marks where it ripped it up, and they know there's no mine in there. That's how we do it. Okay? Now there's mines, and there's all different other kinds of mines, so there's a million variants of these things, but that's how generally we do it. If you were going through a heavily wooded area or a forest or a jungle, you're not going to be able to take these mine anti-mine vehicles that rip up the road, you'd have to destroy the whole forest or jungle, and it would be pretty hard for the vehicle to get through there. But we don't have, jungles and that much heavily wooded areas. We have them, but the soldiers normally wouldn't be parading or walking. In heavily wooded areas, they can, instead of using pressure plate mines, they could use tripcord detonated things. The mine could be up high, and it could have cords, and the soldiers can't see because there's high grass and everything, and they hit the tripcord and it blows up. And they have anti-personnel mines that shoot shrapnel. There's all kinds of things they can do. Yeah. So the war is pretty much, America's not stopping the Houthis the way they're going. Okay. So we got to see how this develops. All right. Probably they're going to eventually work their way up to invading. It's not going to be that long. And I think they know they're going to be invading. Now, that's the snare that Biden's going to throw America into, sending a lot of soldiers over there, probably more warships, and do a extended ground invasion. So when the sleepers break loose in America, and they're not going to just run around doing protests and shutting down stock exchanges like they tried to do in London yesterday, blocking access to airports. They're not going to do that. They're going to hit the military bases and take them over and destroy them, or use the equipment, or both. And that's why they're being dispersed around the country. It's too late, basically. The high estimate is 7 million, and 70% are military-age males, and those are your sleepers. So that gives you about 5 million already. And if you take the lower estimate, you'd probably be at 3 million. So that gives you 2 million of these guys. And America's got a high population, I don't know, 350 million or so. So then, you know what goes on in Jeremiah 50:51. Once the invasion begins, nobody survives, and they loot and pillage the country, and God kindles fires in and about the cities and burns them up. Now, we don't have all the little fine details as to how that works, but it says that the spoilers or the looters will not be disappointed. So it would seem to me, where are you going to loot? You're not going to want to take cash money, paper money out of banks and stuff. You may want to go to the banks and break open the safe deposit boxes. That would be wisdom. You're going to want to go to the very rich communities, the millionaire locations in America, which is going to probably be 100 cities. I mean, just start rattling them off. There's tons of them all over America. You've got areas in Miami and in Fort Lauderdale that people are very rich with yachts and stuff. Florida Keys also. In and around Virginia and Washington, D.C., you have them. You have them in Georgia. Every state has a few cities where there's very wealthy people. Okay? It's not just Beverly Hills and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. There's places in Dallas and Fort Worth that you have it in, and in Austin. And all the state capitals have rich areas. So it's a lot of cities. And they can get into these houses and they could collect all kinds of valuables, furs, expensive clothing, fine wines and liquors, very valuable. Because they seem to do it when I'm on the air only, or most exclusively. It happens when I'm not on the air too, so I don't know. So there's a lot of wealthy people that are going to want to spoil. So you got furs, expensive clothing, expensive appliances like coffee makers, cooking things. You have valuable perfumes and colognes. You have, expensive sunglasses. They sell sunglasses for $1,200 to $3,000 today. You have jewelry, gold, silver, that they have in their safes that they could figure out how to break into, and things like that. You know, they may go after the paper money from other countries, but it's basically not going to be that stuff. They also may take food out of America. Um, and they're going to go in the houses, and these people never seen houses like these mansions. And they're going to, of course, rape and kill the people and get rid of them. And then they're going to, start grabbing the loot, and they're going to drink, the wine and the liquors, and they're going to eat the food and all of that. Get drunk, go in the swimming pool, and they may take the cars out. I don't know exactly what'll happen. They may bring, you know, 1,000 merchant marine vessels to the different coasts and load them up with vehicles and everything else. A lot of these people own, conservative ones own 4 or 5 cars. Some have 20 or 30 expensive, rare cars, but the average, mansion type place can have at least 4 or 5 good cars, Mercedes, BMW, Cadillac, things like this. They could take the vehicles. They could haul the furniture out, you know? They could haul all, I don't know. These are the little fine details we don't have yet. Okay? So, the Houthi thing has not been stopped. It's sort of comical what they did. And they're going to keep attacking by air futilely, warning them before they come, giving them notice so they could hide stuff and hide themselves. And they'll destroy some targets for sure, but they're not going to ruin the capability of the Houthis unless they do a ground invasion. We, at 101 days in fighting Hamas with ground invasion that we did, they're still getting missiles out. The Houthis are not going to stop unless they get ground invaded. Then they'll be forced to stop. They're probably at least 3 or 4 times more powerful than Hamas. It's not going to stop like that. And America should have enough brains to know that. Okay, so what they're doing is they're building up for something or waiting for something. You could take your pick. Okay? They're not fighting the Houthis because of Israel. Okay? They had ships in the Red Sea and they took the missiles down because they don't really know where the missiles are headed. So the news says, and they say, oh, missiles headed to Israel. They don't wait to see the missile pass over their head or next to their ships to see what's going to happen. They see a missile coming somewhere near their ships, they take it out before it gets close. Maybe some of these missiles were headed for Israel and they took them out. But they would not, it's hard to say. I don't know. They haven't fired one bullet into Lebanon, Hezbollah, nor Hamas in Gaza. Don't look to see America fighting shoulder to shoulder with Israel. You're not going to see it. You're waiting for something that's not going to happen. Yesterday, they attacked 3 American bases in Iraq and Syria, and Biden's response has been minimalistic, as you know. Biden, at this point, is not demonstrating by his actions a willingness to go destroy the Muslim terrorist militias in Iraq and Syria, nor the Houthis, nor Hezbollah, nor Hamas. As a matter of fact, Biden and Blinken, every time they turn around, they're talking about you need a 2-state solution. They don't even want to see Hamas leave Gaza. Russia is building in the Chechen area apartment houses now for the people from Gaza to have them move to Russia because you can't live in Gaza anymore. The Gazans are saying 70% of Gaza is not habitable anymore. I think it's about 85. Who is Russia going to take in but the Hamas warriors? That's who they want. So they could be redeployed out of Russia creatively as the need arises. Now, Putin doesn't plan on taking 1.5 million or so Gazans in. He's going to go for Hamas. He can use them where? Ukraine, other places. Fight in my army, you're a citizen of Russia. Beats being a citizen of what do you call it, Gaza. They get a passport from Gaza. It's usually a Jordan passport. It's worthless. Where are they going to go? And with a Russian passport, they could come into America. But Russia might take them in over there and then ship them to America via Mexico or something. I don't know. Or he might want to use them in Europe. Probably want to use them in Europe. China may stay up and say the same thing, but I don't think so. China has no use for Muslims. Russia has plenty, so they don't care. So we still get missile attacks from Lebanon, and we get a little bit from Gaza. And Netanyahu keeps telling us the war is going to last a long time. And more political dissent is rising up against Netanyahu to get rid of him, and I think it'll happen. But the next one's just going to be another one. It'll be different, but not any good. The chances of the Israeli people going for a two-state solution is, I would say, 0. Biden doesn't want to see a prophetic fulfilling of prophecy with Israel getting a victory over Gaza and moving Israeli citizens to live in Gaza again. So he's going to do all he can and go to any level to stop that. Same with Lebanon. The Syria stuff is really coming from militia groups in Syria, and it's very sporadic and not every day or not a massive thing or anything like that. Russia and IRGC troops are in Syria, but I'm not at this point real concerned about that. There's no real big forces around or anything like that. So I'm not too concerned with that right now. I'm checking the chat very quickly. Some messages in the chat seem to have disappeared. No, it's not. It's okay. All right. So that's the story on the wars. It's pretty much the same. We're in day 101. The Israeli government has changed the rules for medical marijuana. It used to be you had to go to a special doctor, and you had to previously had tried to use conventional medicines like painkillers and things like that for a long period of time, for 2 years, and you weren't satisfied, or and then they give you the marijuana, and then it got looser and looser. They very recently just said any medical doctor that's licensed in Israel can prescribe medical marijuana without prerequisites other than the doctor says, here, you can have it. And that's because people in the war, because of the war, Israelis are under great stress. They're not believers, so sure they'll be under stress. They don't know what's going to happen. They're afraid they won't be in Israel anymore. That's what they're thinking. That's not true. Never going to be the case. Okay. So let's go into Zechariah 1, because I believe the Lord showed me a lot of pieces of this that I didn't know before. Now, there's something in here I'm not sure of that I'll cover with you as we proceed, okay? Zechariah 1, verse 1. In the 8th month, in the 2nd year of Darius. You see, they didn't know the correct biblical calendar year. Of course, things got lost. They were in Babylon, I suppose, and other things. So the prophet was saying, 2nd year of Darius, which is a ruler, came the word of Jehovah unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Abido, the prophet, saying, okay, Jehovah hath been sore displeased with your fathers. Therefore say thou unto them, thus saith Jehovah of hosts, which really should be armies. Turn you unto me, saith Jehovah of hosts, and I will turn unto you, saith Jehovah of hosts. Be ye not as your fathers, unto whom the former prophets have cried, saying, thus saith Jehovah of armies. See, that's a red alert. We're getting a missile someplace in Israel, not in my area. Or I would hear the sound of the sirens in the street, which I didn't. Saith Jehovah of hosts, turn you now from your evil ways and from your evil doing. Let's check the word evil. Ra. Yeah, let's see how Strong's puts it in English. Yeah, you could go with evil, I guess. And from your evil doings, but they did not hear. Now, the word for ways, what is that? 4480 men. That's from. This is the word 1870. Let's see what Strong's puts in English. Yeah, you could say ways. That's all right. All right. But they did not hear nor hearken. Now, the word for hear is the word Shema. Shema, Yisrael, Noel, Hanel, Noecha. It means hear and obey. That they did not hear, which means hear and obey, nor hearken, pretty similar. Unto me, saith Jehovah. Your fathers, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? But my words and my statutes, which commanded my servants, the prophets, did they not take hold of your fathers? And they returned and said, like as Jehovah of armies thought to do unto us according to our ways, and according to our doings, so hath he dealt with us. Upon the 24th day of the 11th month, so that probably would have been in the January area, or December, January area, something like that, of the 11th month, which is the month of Sabbat, the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of Jehovah unto Zechariah. See, this should have probably been 2 chapters, but man created the chapters and the verses. It was all one continuum. This seems to be another prophecy. unto Zechariah the son of Berechiah the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse. And the word for horse is sus, which means horse. And he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, probably a valley, and behind him were red horses, speckled and white. And the word for horses is again correct, sus. Then said I, O my Lord, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show thee what these be. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, These are they whom the Lord hath sent, okay, to walk. No, it doesn't say are they, it says these, and I believe that's correctly translated. These are those, yeah, these ought to be those whom, let's see what that says. Who the Lord had sent, yeah, that's okay. Whom Jehovah had, and sent is shaliach, and that's like a deliverer, you know, delivery, something like a UPS or something like that, had sent to walk to and fro through the land, or Haaretz, which could be earth or land, and probably means Israel, but I'm not sure. And we'll see. And they answered the angel of the Lord that stood among the myrtle trees and said, We have walked to and fro throughout Haaretz, which could be Israel. And behold, all Haaretz sitteth still and is at rest. Now, when is that? It depends how we interpret Haaretz. If we're using Haaretz, the land, meaning the world, it would mean when the daughter of Babylon is destroyed, because then the whole earth is at rest, and that's what I think it means. Then the angel of Jehovah answered and said, O Jehovah of hosts, how long will thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, which thou had indignation on these trees, on these 70 years, 70 years. Now, this was written probably around 17 years after they came out of Babylon. Could be 18 years, something like that. So the Babylonian captivity was very recent, and this is what he's referencing. Thou had anger, indignation, his anger these, and he's talking in the past tense, these 70 years, you know. He's not predicting into the future. And Jehovah answered the angel that talked with me. Now the 70 years is already over, of course. That talked with me good words and comfortable words. That sounds the way the North American Indians would talk, doesn't it? Huh? Hint, I think a hint. So the angel that communed with me said unto me, Cry thou, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of armies, I am jealous for Jerusalem. Now the word jealous is kana, not Cana, kana. Strong's puts that word into what English? Zealous, envious. He's very zealous to get Israel back to him. I am very zealous for Jerusalem and for Zion. So he's talking about the holy city and Israel. Zion would be Israel, I suppose. It means a dry, parched place, which is a good descriptor of Israel. It's pronounced Sion, not Zion. With a great jealousy. So he has a great, and the word for great is gadol, which means great or large. And I am very sore displeased with the goyim at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction on Israel. The nations did. And the word for afflictions, according to Strong's, how he puts it in English, is evil, Now I'm in Zechariah 1:16. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem. Now, returned is 7725 Shub. Let's see what English Strong's uses for this. It sort of means return to the starting point. And that's consistent with Isaiah 1, where he says he's going to run Israel with the judges like he did at the first. And that's, I would say, strong. It's implied quite strongly that's what's really going on here. My house shall be built in it. Now, you see, this is them twisting the word. So let's go back. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. My house shall be built in it. Now, it doesn't say built. It's Strong's number 1129, Benah. Now, the way Strong's puts it into English is build, obtain, repair, set up. Okay? So they say build because they want you to believe that, the rabbis are going to build the next temple, which they don't talk about it coming down from heaven. And this is not New Jerusalem. I'm speaking the next temple. To build, rebuild, establish, it could mean so it's not an indicator like the rabbis are going to build it like they want you to believe. In it saith Jehovah of hosts, and a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. Cry yet, saying, thus saith Jehovah of armies, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread abroad, and the Lord shall yet comfort Zion. Now, this is where it gets exciting and interesting, okay? First of all, what does the word prosperity mean? It means good. The word is tov, okay? It doesn't mean prosperity. It means tov. And the other word in there is min, from, so what he's really saying here is, thus saith Jehovah of armies, my cities. Now let's check that word, because you can't trust these people. And does it really say cities? Let's see what Strong says. I would think it's a city, a town, a village, that kind of thing. It does say that. Okay. And then through prosperity is incorrect. It's overflows. My city's tov, min tov, good. It's meaning it's good. Shall yet. So he's talking about shall yet. This is incorrectly. It's ode, which really means like again. Repeatedly, yeah, it means again. Again, be spread abroad. Now let's check that. Poots. See, this is. Let's go to shall yet, ode. Again, poots. Let's see what Strong's puts this into English as. Dispersed, cast, drive, scattered. Okay. In Yiddish, we use the word putz. It's a derogatory term to somebody, like you're a jerk or something. You know, I don't know. That's Yiddish, though, which is close to Hebrew some of the time, not all the time. Shall yet be scattered, and Jehovah shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. So we've got to go very carefully here. So he's saying, thus saith Jehovah of armies, cities through prosperity, cities from Tov, good. So he's saying good cities, I think he's what he's saying in English, yet be scattered. And Jehovah shall yet, let's check on this. It's no, it's again. And Jehovah again comfort. The word for comfort is console. Let's see how Strong's puts it in English. It's sort of like pity and console combined, you might say. You could say comfort, Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. So, have we seen today in these last 101 days cities spread abroad or scattered? Well, we have. There's 200,000 people that live in Israel that had to leave their homes near Lebanon and in the south near Gaza. Ashdod, Ashkelon, Sderot, things like that in the south, and several communities up by Lebanon. It's a good 200,000 can't go home. So they're in captivity inside Israel, except for the small amount that went to places like Cyprus and other places. Okay, so I think we got a match. Now some of you say, oh no, there's, a lot of millions of people that live in Israel, it has to be 5 million or 8 million or something. Well, it doesn't. I mean, does it say my cities through my good cities, all of them are good? No, it doesn't say that. They shall all leave their house, they shall all go into captivity. No, 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 no. Then lifted up my eyes and saw. Now we may see more of this, we may not be there yet. Then lifted I up mine eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns. Karen is horns, and I would say this really means horns. I think horns is good here. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah and Israel and Jerusalem. Now this is where we get dicey, because it says they have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Judah and Jerusalem we could deal with, but Israel has been scattered a long time. And the Lord showed me 4 carpenters. Now, the word carpenters is not that good of a word. Not that good of a translation. Let's see how this word is used elsewhere. It seems to be used as a workman doing some skillful work. It's translated as a smith and a carpenter. Yeah, it's really meaning like a carpenter or a workman. And then it goes on in verse 21, it says, then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah. Now, he's not saying Israel here. he's saying Judah, which is now. These are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. So everybody's bummed out and hanging their head down. But these are come to fray. The word for fray means terrify, tremble, quake. Let's see what Storm's word is, how he puts it in English. Shudder with terror, yeah, terrify. Terrify, to cast out, that's cast out or cast down, that's about pretty accurate. The horns of the Goyim, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. So there's choices we have here. Does this have any applicability to today? I think so, because in this part it's saying Judah. So if I was going to go take a shot at this, what do I think? What do I think I've been shown the four horns are? The Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Gaza, the Hamas, and America. I've told you about October 7th with America. So I would say that's who they are. And we see America run away in Jeremiah 50:51 from Israel. So they're scared, they run away. So it does lend itself. Let me back up a little bit. So what do the four workmen come to do is what he's saying in Zechariah 1:21. Come these to do, and he spake it, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man lift up his head. Everybody's bummed out and slumped over and stuff like that, which I told you, they're all getting medical marijuana now and stuff like that. But these are come to the four workmen, are come to terrify them, to cast out the horns of the Goyim. So in other words, to get rid of their horns. What does a country fight with their horns? An animal fights with their horns. Horns of the Goyim, which lifted up their horn over. Now the word for over is al. Toward, let's see what Strong's puts in English. Near or over or at. And that sure sounds like all the missiles they've been launching at us, doesn't it? Cast out the horns of the Goyim, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter. And they did scatter it to the tune of 200,000, and we may not be over with it yet. So what I see now is Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and the United States. And the United States has a very active role here, believe me. Iran is not really doing any direct attacks in Israel. If you want to hold Iran responsible for the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah attacking Israel, then you have to hold the United States and the UK and other NATO countries responsible for Ukraine attacking Russia or defending against Russia. And that's kind of Russia's position. So who are the four workmen? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The only thing I could come up with that makes sense is the two witnesses, the glory of God of Israel, but calling him a workman doesn't make sense. and the anointed prince that shows up in the next temple. I might be missing something here, because I'm not really thinking that saying the glory of God of Israel is part of Elohim is a workman. It doesn't lend itself. And we don't see the anointed prince doing anything in terms of war. So I'm not clear who the other two would be, I'm thinking. It could be two other players that emerge in prophecy. We don't know who they are. I'm not thinking they come down from heaven like the two witnesses. I'm not going in that direction with this, although it could be the case. I don't see it anywhere else in prophecy, so that wouldn't be something that could be supported. I don't believe it's other apostles. It's a possibility, but I don't think so. Just Apostle John is the only one we're going to see. I don't believe Yeshua would be referred to as a workman. Of course, nor Jehovah, and of course, nor the Holy Spirit. They're not likely candidates. So who the heck could it be? I don't know. Should pray about that. I don't know. So, for what that's worth, that's as far as I got on that. And we can pray to get more insight, that I get more insight and pass it on. That would be a good prayer. Hold on, I got an interesting email from someone. Let me look at it. No, it's nothing to consider. Okay. I will look at it when I have time, but it's somebody date setting, and got to be very careful about that. I don't want to do that while I'm on the air. I listen to what people send. All right, I'm going to check the chat real quick. Looks like we're good in the chat. All right. So I think we got some insights there, but we got more to go. And also pray that if I made any errors, the Lord correct it. This has been a very hard one to deal with. Very difficult. All right, let's discuss, is the Churchianity doctrines of the world, are they really cursing Israel? Now, in the United States, daughter of Babylon, you have 380,000 churches. Probably 379,999.9. I'd say all of them are no good. Okay. They're congregations and not churches. The church word they made up. It's ecclesia, called out from among. The doctrines of all of these churches are horrible. We'll start with, he said some in the ecclesia are apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists. Teachers, pastors and evangelists could be raised up from within the congregation. But apostles and prophets need to be ordained and anointed by Jehovah. They don't have any of that. They don't have any real prophets. Now, operating in the gifts of the spirit of prophecy is not being a prophet. Okay? They don't have any prophets. The last two prophets were Yeshua, who was a prophet, and many more things as well, much greater than a prophet, but also a prophet, and John the Baptist. And the next two are the two witnesses. There's nothing in between. Okay? You gotta accept that. Now, I know there's a million of these characters calling themselves prophets and apostles, but that's just nonsense. The Mormon Church says they have 12 apostles. You know what I mean? It's just silly, you know. So, what does an apostle do? An apostle plants the churches, the congregations, the Kehillah, and he supervises them and rears them up and monitors them and so forth. Now, in the absence of apostles, how do you have congregations? You can't. Period. And then you'd also need prophets running around too. They don't have any of that. So they're incorrect right from the get-go. Are the Messianic congregations in this grouping? Absolutely. They're nothing but Jewish-oriented churches. Their doctrines stink. They're putrid. All of them. They're all no good. They're all run by the same Espot people, just like the churches. It's just nonsense. Okay? Now, why would I say that they're cursing Israel? Well, I have good reason. Remember the scripture, I will curse those that curse you and bless those that bless you. And we're seeing right now in Nigeria, the Christian churches, they're getting all kinds of persecuted by the Muslims, killed and everything else. Now they're forcing them to convert to Islam. Nobody's going to help them. Is God delivering these churches from the wrath to come? No. Are the doctrines of these churches different than America, Europe, Asia? Of course not. It's the same garbage. I'm going to take a break for a minute and come back quickly. Hello, Kiki. Okay. The seat of Churchianity was not really in America. It was in Europe. And, it started with Catholicism. After the resurrection of Yeshua, we went about 300 to 350 years without any churches. And then a political leader named Constantine started churches, and they were pathetically awful. And then it evolved into the Catholic Church with the popes, torturing people during the Inquisition to convert to Catholicism. And they were the ones that were responsible for the English translations of the Bible. And that started back around 1300. Yeah, Wycliffe, Tyndale, and all these others, Bishop Bible, they're all no good. They're all twisting scriptures. They all did the 70s wrong and everything else. Okay? I've studied these old translations, and they're garbage. And they're all the same garbage. I don't see any signs of honest translations in any of them. They're Catholic in their roots. The Reformation was just the Catholics were seeing the jig is up, or the unclean spirits saw it. So rather than have the people form, little groups and fellowship with each other. Now, you can fellowship with other people if they're like-minded. Okay? No problem. But once you start forming congregations and putting titles on people and putting authority over other people, now you're not just fellowshipping with fellow believers. With two or more gathered together in my name, there I am with them. That's fellowshipping. I'm the pastor, I'm an elder, I'm an evangelist, I am this, I'm that, I'm the children's minister, I'm the women's minister, I'm the this, that. Now you're playing Churchianity. Okay, and they're incorrect. Now, you get into the sins of the churches in Galatians 5:19 to 21. And I'll quickly review those, which I probably did here 100 times, or some high amount of numbers. I'll just go through it rather rapidly. But you need to take heed of this, or cut Galatians 5:19 to 21 out of your Bible with an X-Acto knife and go stick your head in the ground. This is what I would call ostrich Churchianity. You put your head in the ground. Now, the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, no; fornication, no; uncleanness, they don't even know what that is; lasciviousness, that's like porn, strip clubs, nude beaches, stuff like that. Idolatry, well, they don't really know what that is. They go and kneel down in front of two pieces of wood shaped like a cross. Witchcraft, they know precious little of that. They are ignorant of Satan's methods and devices. Hatred, variance, well, they're extremely guilty of variance, the Messianic congregations and the churches. They have different doctrinal statements. There is no such thing. It's one doctrine. The Apostles' doctrine, Yeshua's doctrine, it's all the same thing. Once you start with pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, pray in tongues, don't pray in tongues, sprinkled baptism, immersion baptism, all this stuff, house churches and building churches, you've gone so far off. Now you're doing house divided unto itself shall not stand. That's exactly what you're doing. It's a sin. Now let's see how serious these sins are in a moment, okay? Variance, emulations. And emulation is rivalry. They do that. Not that profound, but they do it. You know, they kick against the Catholics, and Catholics kick against evangelicals, you know. Wrath, that would be anger towards the other. They do that too. Strife, they do that too. Copeland, they attack. You know, this is all that kind of stuff. Seditions, and that word means divisions. That's exactly what that word means perfectly, a division. And that's what denominationalism is. They're in the denominations. And those are divisions. We believe this way. No, we believe that way. No, we believe it. You see, that's a division. A house divided shall not stand unto itself. Okay? Heresies, that's very much related to a division. It's choices or options. Oh, we're full gospel, we're not. You know, okay? Envyings, murders, drunkenness, it's all grouped together. Murders is right there with divisions, denominationalism, and doctrinal statements. Murders is right up there with them. Drunkenness, revelings, that's like rage parties, I guess, and such like of the which I tell you before, as I have told you in times past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. These people are not saved. They're not. If you're going to argue that God's going to shed mercy and grace on them for violating these scriptures, then you're making God into a liar, because he's saying he's not going to do that, and you're saying, oh, no, he will. Well, that's like saying, no, people that go to the lake of fire won't stay there for eternity. Well, you're making God a liar when you do that. How many people made it through the flood? 8. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He changes not. Those are scriptures. So, what are you doing? When you continue with these denominations and the different doctrinal statements and stuff now, the Messianic congregations have different doctrinal statements, and they also are members of what's called Messianic umbrella organizations, like Union of Messianic Congregations, which is an umbrella organization, has a doctrinal statement, and it's just a division lightly disguised, very lightly or slightly. So when you see people forming these formal structures during the days of darkness, in other words, we could say roughly from the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, during the 2,000 years of Hosea 6:1 and 2, they're not valid. There's still no valid congregations. They're not. Can you have fellowship with other people? Yes. Can, if you found people that were not living in crazy off-the-wall doctrines, could you get together? And would Yeshua be there with you if it was 2 or more gathered together in his name? I think he would. You would. These congregations are not going to have their prayers answered. Do you believe a guy that's a murderer and an adulterer can go out and do that and then have his prayers answered without repenting? Without repenting. Repenting, sure, but without repenting. Churches aren't repenting of this. You have to understand, these places are not of God. They are not of God. Not at all. Not even close. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many be that find it. This is the road to destruction. Many are called, but few are chosen. The ones that are called wind up going there. These are the tares. Let the tares grow up with the wheat, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference. And if you pull the tares up, you might uproot the wheat too. So the tares get pulled up, and they're bound in bundles to be burned in the fire, which is the lake of fire. And you can't tell them apart, because on the outside they look like they're believers, but they're not. They're not. By their fruit you shall know them. Their fruit stinks, rotten to the core. You don't get bad fruit from a good tree. You sure explain that to us in absolutes. Bad fruit only comes from a bad tree, and good fruit only from a good tree. These people, their fruit, their doctrines, their practices is disgusting to the Lord. It's awful. They violate his word all over the place. Now, if that's not enough for you, go to 2 Corinthians 11:4. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, that's what they do. They preach another Jesus. That allows division. That allows variance. Well, we don't know, I'm pre-trib, you're post-trib. Well, none of us really know, so I'll accept you. Of course we know. Yeshua said 4 times, John 6:39, John 6:40, John 6:44, John 6:54, that everybody gets raised up on the same day, the last day, which means there's no more days, which is after the millennium, after Satan's release and so forth. And that's why all their pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib doctrines are wrong. There's no left behind rapture. The other piece of this false doctrine puzzle is amillennialism, which Lutherans, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, I think Church of Christ, and the Catholics follow. Essentially, they're saying the Catholics are so far gone, I mean, we don't even need to talk about them, but I think essentially they'll tell you, the amillennials will tell you that this is the millennium because Yeshua's in heaven. And the next thing that happens is the earth gets burned up and we get raptured up to heaven. So they've eliminated all kinds of prophecy, probably 30 to 50 pages of it, All right? Satan didn't write an entirely new Bible like the Tibetan Book of the Dead or the stories of Buddha or anything like that, but he's perverted the existing scriptures so bad. So it says, for if he cometh preacheth another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or you receive another spirit, which you have not received, meaning from them or with them, and that means that the people in there are getting an unclean spirit, which means they're children of the devil, which coincides with Matthew 13 with the tares. They're the children of the wicked one. That's who they are, but you can't tell the difference easily. That's why you don't take them out. The angels got to see it and root them up. They just give a bad name to the gospel. They don't really do anything. You have to understand that this is the enemy. Yeshua said, you're either for me or against me. And they're not for him. They're against him. They're the enemy. You must understand this. They're not like you. They look on the outside like you, but that's Satan's clever approach to this. They're the enemy of Yeshua. And it says, or another gospel which you have not accepted, you might well bear with him. They do that. They have another gospel. It's completely different, yet they use the Bible. Just like Jehovah's Witnesses use the Bible, Christian Scientists use the Bible, the Mormons use the Bible, they use the Bible. No. Like Copeland uses the Bible, but it's all twisted and turned. And they put it on the people with witchcraft, sorcery, and they put unclean spirits in them, and they steal the word out of their heart, and they don't know what they're doing, and they say, these are not the children of God. Okay? We see more of this in Matthew 7. Verse 21, not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but the kingdom of heaven means the basilia, the reign of heaven. But he that doeth the will of my Father doeth the works which is in heaven. Now they don't do it. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, he says many, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? Now, this is Yeshua talking. The rabbis in the synagogues, they don't prophesy in the name of Yeshua. It's not speaking of them. It's not speaking of the Buddhists, Islam, Hindu, atheists. No, no, no. Speaking specifically of the churches. Prophesied on thy name, and in thy name have cast out devils. Again, this is not Buddha, Hindu, Islam, atheism. It's the churches. And in thy name done many wonderful works. Again, it's not Judaism, it's the churches. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work lawlessness. Who runs around doing lawlessness but the churches that all teach the law's done away with? Or practically every one of them. Now, how do they curse Israel? How do they curse Israel? Let's find the scripture on the cursing. Give me a second. I have to look it up. I don't know the verses anymore. It's on Isaiah, I believe, but I gotta look it up. I think it's Genesis 12:3. Let's go there. Maybe back up a little bit. Let's go to Genesis 3:1. Now Jehovah had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show you. And I will make of thee a great nation. And the word for nation is goyim. And I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And Barucha is the word for blessing. It means a blessing, a Barucha. It's a blessing. And I will bless, the word for bless is Baruch. It's similar, I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curses thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So, does this apply to you? Well, the promises were made to Abraham and his seed, not seeds of many, but seed of one. Is this not a promise? Let's find that scripture. Galatians 3:16, I'll read. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not, and to seed as of, and he saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ. And this I say, the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should make the promises of none effect. For the inheritance be of the law is no more of promise, but God gave it to Abraham by promise. Wherefore then, not by his works, by promise. Not by doing the works of the law, by promise. Then serveth the law, it was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made, and it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. Now, a mediator is not a mediator of one, but God is one. Is the law then against the promise of God? God forbid. For if there had been a law given which could have given verily righteousness, should have been by the law. You're not going to get righteousness by the law. But the scripture hath concluded all under sin, that the promise by faith of Yeshua might be given to them that believe. Okay, the promise. So, yeah, the promised land, sure. But what about this promise? I will curse those who curse you and bless those who bless you. Well, I would say that applies to all the believers. Now, compound this or combine that with we're in the year of recompenses and payback. Now, some of you may have people that have harmed you and hurt you for no good reason. They think it's a good reason because you're a believer, and they go after you and cause you pain, suffering, economic loss, problems, and so forth, right? Why don't you now, in these days, try crying out to the Lord against that person in Yeshua's name and explain what they did wrong to you and say, they're cursing me. So will you curse them? And see what happens. Try it. The promises are collective, but they're also individual. How could it be any way other than that? If it's on the collective Israel, spiritual Israel, it would also be on you individually, wouldn't it? So is this also spiritual warfare? Yeah, it's spiritual warfare with prayer warfare in a way. So you could ask the Lord, say, they're cursing me, this is what they did. I didn't do anything to deserve it. Now, it's not going to be applicable if you beat some guy up and then he starts, you got to, do it where they just come after you to take advantage of you and harm you using their money, their power, their position, their jobs or whatever. Yeah, do it. And, petition the Lord and say, look, they did this, that, and the other thing to me. I didn't do anything to them. They just did this to me. Basically, they're cursing me because I'm a believer in you. Now we're in the year of recompenses. I pray you take the revenge on them because revenge applies to you, not me. and curse them that have cursed me, and do it in the name of Yeshua the Messiah. That would be crying out to the Lord against them. See what happens. I think you'll be surprised. I think you'll be surprised. Whoops, hold on a minute. There's a delivery on the way, and it's due, and this could be it. Let me check. I don't know if he's here yet. Let's see. No, this doesn't sound like it. Give me a second. It's an ad from the hamburger place. This is absurd what they charge. I could get 2 Black Angus hamburger patties that are quite big. I don't remember what they weigh, but they're huge, for 50 shekels. And I could go to a restaurant and get a smaller hamburger patty of less quality food and spend twice that. You know, why go? You know, it's not as good. I mean, see what I'm saying? This is Israel. So you can try that, okay? See what happens. I'm starting to do that. Let's see what happens. Now, how are they cursing Israel? Well, they're creating doctrines and elevate the church over Israel, and they turn people away from Israel. And they teach the people that Israel is going to be, you know, have the Antichrist in a temple here. And they're making fun of God, they're making fun of the scriptures. And, you know, Revelation 13 says that the beast is given Satan's seat and power and authority when he comes out of the sea. And then you read Revelation 2, I think verse 12 or 17, and it says Satan seats in Pergamos, and that's where Satan dwells. And that's the city in Cyprus, up in North Cyprus, run and owned by Turkey. Now they also say that, as some of the more modern translations say, Pergamum, which is a place in Turkey, and it's incorrect. The older manuscripts say Pergamos. So, Pergamum and Pergamos are not in Israel, never will be in Israel. So they have no basis to say that the next temple in Israel is going to be occupied by the Antichrist, but they do it. Now you're going to say these people are innocent and they don't know any better, and I'm going to say their hearts are evil, and they like elevating themselves over Israel with their other gospel. And many of you have tried to preach the true gospel to them, and you see how they reject it. They're not of us. They're enemies. You're either for him and against him, and they're not for him. So bear in mind, they're enemies. Get that down. When the 2 witnesses emerge, they're not going to admit they were wrong about the law and all that stuff. They're going to say they're not the 2 witnesses, or reject them, or not follow them, or anything. They're going to probably call them the beast and the false prophet, using they're saying the law is not dead yet. We got to follow the law. You know, they're going to be crazy. They're cursing Israel. They're stating that all these bad things are going to happen to Israel from the scriptures, that it's in the scripture. I would say they're cursing Israel. And at the very least, you could say they're bad-mouthing Israel. Are they blaspheming the Holy Spirit? No, not exactly, no. Are they making a mockery of God and his word? Yes. Is Yeshua the word made flesh? Yes. Are they mocking Yeshua? Yes. Are they making a monkey show out of the scriptures? Yes. Do they care? No. Do they reject you when you have the true gospel? Yes. Not all of them, some of them do. Are they blind and don't know what they're doing? Yes, but they're also evil. They don't want to they don't want to follow the Lord. They don't want to pay the price. They don't want any of that. And Satan plays them like a fiddle. There's 2.3 to 2.6 billion churchgoers in the world. That's not Buddha, that's not Islam, that's not Hinduism, that's not atheism, that's not communism, it's Churchianity. Probably around a fourth of the population, and they're not going to make it. Very few of them make it out of this alive. America has really been the one that has spread these Churchianity false gospels around the world. Europe did it to some extent too, but America has really been profound in it. Okay? And it's all over the world. Roughly 2.5 billion people follow Churchianity. And they're the children of the wicked one. You gotta get that down. And the wicked one hates you if you're a true believer. And what you're seeing with the churches in Nigeria, you're going to see more and more of around the world. And yeah, we can say they're going to come out of it and this and that. I think some will, but don't expect a lot. They're not looking for the truth. You guys were once in the churches and you were looking for the truth and you came out. They're not looking for the truth. They're looking for acceptance. They're looking for friends. They're looking for peace of mind. They're looking for this. It's all false. They're going to get nothing but misery. Those of you remember when you first came out of the churches, your life got better, not worse. Neglect not the gathering together amongst yourself as is tradition of some. But what are you supposed to do? Gather together incorrectly, breaking the scriptures, fellowshipping with people you shouldn't be fellowshipping with? Of course not. These signs shall follow those that believe in my name, they shall cast out devils. Tell them that and you'll see all the excuses they give you for not doing it. You'll get all kinds of excuses. People will tell you they sing songs, gospel songs. I mean, it's just, they're so gone. It's not even lightweight. It's massive. What's this? All right, my order is coming. So I think I'm done. I'm Moshe. My wife is Rivka. Please pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. Please keep the prayers coming for my wife's knee to heal. The things you've been praying for me for have really come to pass. I'm in pretty good shape now. The hernia still could use prayer though. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and thank you for the offerings. Pray for the animals and pets that are all rescues to be happy, healthy, and whole. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And keep praying for more insights into the scripture, and we'll get them. And I'm out.